Okay, so have you heard about this app DAZE?
I have, yeah. It's generating a lot of buzz right now.
Yeah, and it's supposed to launch pretty soon, right? Like November 4th.
Yeah, that's right, November 4th.
It's interesting. It seems like all the buzz is coming from, like, Gen Z, right? They're the ones who are really excited about it.
Yeah, it seems to be targeted towards Gen Z and younger demographics.
Which is interesting because, like, how many messaging apps can we really have?
Right.
But from what I've been reading, this one's different.
Yeah, it's definitely trying to position itself as a different type of messaging app.
We've got some articles here from Geeko. You familiar with that?
I am, yeah. It's a Belgian tech site, right?
Yeah, a Belgian tech news site.
Yeah.
And they seem to think that, DAZE might be onto something.
Yeah, and they've got a point, because when you look at the features, it's not just your typical messaging app.
So let's get into that. Like, what is it about DAZE that makes it different from, like, our everyday WhatsApp or iMessage?
So imagine, like, instead of just typing messages in a straight line, you can put them anywhere on the screen.
Oh, okay.
Like digital sticky notes.
Like a mood board almost for your chat.
Exactly, yeah. And then on top of that, you've got drawings, GIFs, even like little animations.
Wow, so it's very visual.
It's very visual.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about creating like a visual experience.
It's interesting because they've got, what, 156,000 people on the wait list?
Yeah, something like that. It's huge.
Something like that. And it seems like they've really tapped into that, like, fear of missing out.
Totally.
Because people, I think it's the first time I've ever heard of, like, a messaging app having a wait list.
It's smart. It's very smart marketing.
It is smart.
Because, everyone wants to be part of the in-group.
Right.
And by creating that exclusivity,
Right.
it just makes people want it even more.
So what you're saying is it's not just a messaging app. It's like, it's a club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to be invited.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, it plays into that whole, like, Gen Z. They're all about visual communication, right?
Exactly. They're visual learners. They love to express themselves visually. I mean, look at TikTok.
Right. Right. And memes and all of that.
Yeah.
So they're already doing this.
Exactly. So DAZE is really just tapping into that existing behavior. It's like they're speaking their language.
And I think, too, I think maybe this is just me getting old, but, like, sometimes the text message just doesn't quite, like,
Cut
it. Yeah. Like, you need that extra something.
That nuance.
The nuance to really get your point across.
And that's where the AI comes in with DAZE, which I think is super interesting.
Okay, hold on. AI in a messaging app. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so it's not just, adding pre-made GIFs or whatever.
Right.
You can actually use AI to help you create content within the app.
Okay, so, like, what does that even mean? Give me an example.
So say you're chatting with a friend and you want to send a funny response.
Yeah.
But words just aren't enough.
Okay.
You could actually, like, sketch something directly onto their message using the AI tools.
Oh, wow.
Or the AI could suggest the perfect GIF based on what you're saying, but like a really specific GIF that captures the exact emotion you're going for.
Okay.
It's about like amplifying your creativity, not replacing it.
So it's almost like having, like, a creative partner.
Exactly. It's like having a sidekick that understands your sense of humor and your visual style.
That's pretty cool.
It's very cool.
Yeah. Okay. So it's definitely different, but, like, how do they compete?
Right.
Because, like you said, we all have, like, 3 messaging apps already. So how do they break through that?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
That is the question everyone's asking.
Right.
Because, I mean,
Yeah.
WhatsApp, iMessage, they're like staples at this point.
They are. It's like, how do you, what is it?
Yeah.
What's that?
And are they trying to, I don't know, if they're trying to compete with those or if they're trying to be something totally different.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what they're banking on, is that it's not just about sending a message.
Right.
It's about kind of creating this like mini world.
Right.
Like every conversation is a little bit of like a shared experience.
Okay.
Because you're creating something together.
I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's funny because it's like, I feel like, we always talk about, like, oh, this app is so addictive or that app is so addictive.
Right.
But, like, what DAZE is doing is so different because it really is, it's like almost like a game.
Yeah. It's engaging.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. And and if it can keep that,
Right.
that kind of, like, energy.
Right. Because that's the challenge.
Yeah.
We've seen this before, right? Like an app comes along, it's like, ooh, shiny new thing.
Yeah.
And then 6 months later,
It's gone.
it's gone, yeah.
Yeah.
So how do they make it last?
Right. How do they make it last? And like, what would that even look like?
Well, they've got to nail the user experience, for
Okay.
one. Because if it's not easy to use, if it's not intuitive,
Right.
people are going to be like,
Yeah.
yeah, forget it.
Yeah. It's too hard.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's got to be like super smooth, very intuitive, like you said, almost like a game.
Right. And then also they got to keep, they got to keep adding. They got to keep it fresh.
Keep it fresh, exactly, because especially with Gen Z,
Right.
they're on to the next thing so quickly.
Okay, so like I get why Gen Z would be excited about this,
Wow.
but like what about like I don't know, like my parents, like are they the target audience? Is this for everyone?
Right. Well, that's an interesting question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think on the surface, it seems very Gen Z focused.
Right.
But I think what DAZE represents is actually much bigger than that.
Okay.
I think it's a glimpse into the future of how we're all going to be communicating online.
Interesting.
It's this shift from like purely text-based communication to something that's more visual, more expressive.
More about feeling.
More about feeling, exactly.
Yeah.
So even if your parents aren't sending AI-powered doodles anytime soon,
Right.
I think the trends that DAZE is tapping into are going to start to influence how we all communicate online.
So you're saying even if this app, I don't know, maybe it'll be huge, maybe it won't be.
Right.
But you're saying like this is like almost like we're looking at the future.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because think about it. Like,
Yeah.
when's the last time you had a conversation online that was purely text-based?
Never.
Exactly.
Right. There's always like an emoji or a GIF or.
There's always something.
Yeah.
So we're already moving in that direction. And DAZE is just like taking it to the next level.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something to pay attention to.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the good. We've talked about the potential.
Right.
Are there any downsides? Like, is there anything, like, should we be concerned about this?
Yeah, that's a really good point because every new technology comes with its own set of potential downsides.
Right.
And I think with DAZE, one of the things that comes to mind is the learning curve.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot going on.
Right. Like, is it going to be too much for people?
Right. Like, will people want to learn how to use this whole new system?
Right.
Or are they just going to be like, you know what, I'm just going to stick with what I know?
Just text me.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And the other thing I was thinking, too, is like, we talk about all these visuals.
Right.
But not everyone, like, experiences the internet the same way. Right?
That's a really important point. Yeah.
Like accessibility.
Accessibility. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because if you're relying so heavily on visuals,
right,
you have to make sure that it's inclusive for everyone.
Right.
Regardless of, any kind of visual impairments or anything like that.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle that.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So November 4th, this thing launches.
DAZE is upon us.
DAZE is upon us. Yeah. Should we be downloading this?
I think at the very least, sign up for the wait list.
Okay.
Because even if you're not sure if you're going to use it, it's fascinating.
It's like a glimpse into the future.
It is. It's a glimpse into the future, and whether it's the future of, all communication,
right.
Who knows?
Who knows?
But it's definitely an interesting experiment.
Yeah, and I think, it like you said, like we're already moving in this direction.
We are, yeah.
So
more visuals, more ways to express yourself.
All right, so maybe this is just like the next logical step.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. All right, so November 4th, DAZE. Check it out, maybe.
Check it out.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll have to have you back on to dissect it once it's out.
Once we've had some time to play with it.
Exactly.
All right, sounds good. Well, this has been fascinating as always. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
My pleasure, as always.
And to all of you listening, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.